All right, guys. So pretty much a review today of some things you guys should remember from the past, but we have to know a little bit about these equations in order to kind of move forward to our next area. So we're going to talk about circumference and area of circles. So there's a couple key terms we have to know as we're doing this. Again, first of all, we should know what area is, but circumference is essentially the perimeter of a circle. It's just the distance around the outside. Okay, so the circumference is the perimeter. Perimeter just kind of implies we have to add things together. So circumference is a better term because you're not adding anything together. You're just kind of measuring this distance around the outside of a circle. We have to understand a couple other terms. So this is the diameter. Okay, and again, we should know most of these. We did a unit on circles, equations of circles, and those things. Sorry about that. So the diameter is the distance from one point on a circle to another point on a circle and through the center. Okay, so that's the diameter. This is circumference. Okay, did I spell that right? I don't know. Like circumference or circumference, I don't know. But again, the circumference is the distance around the outside. The diameter is the distance across the circle. And there's this ratio that we talk about, and that is pi. Pi is a ratio between the circumference and the diameter of a circle. In other words, if I take the circumference of any circle and divide it by the diameter of that same circle, I always get the same number. So that's approximately, it's an irrational number, so it's 3.1415926. Now, this is, we got to be real careful with this, okay? I understand that it's everybody's thing, they want to know what pi is, and this number is irrational, it just keeps going, right? You can have it out to millions and millions and billions of digits, it just keeps going. But more important for us is this right here, and that's your circumference divided by your diameter always gives you pi. So it's what we call a constant, and it's a really important number. And if you understand this fact, some of these equations are going to be a little bit easier to remember. So let's start off by saying this, okay? The distance from the center to any point on the circle we call the radius, okay? So no matter where I draw the radius, it's always the same length. And usually we denote this with a lowercase r. But again, two radiuses together, or two radii, if you will, make a diameter. Okay, so two radiuses together make a diameter. So let's talk about this. If you understand this, right, and you understand a little bit about how math works, right? Circumference divided by diameter. Well, what if I wanted to solve for the circumference? Well, if I multiply this side by the diameter, right, now I have a diameter on the top and a diameter on the bottom, they'll cancel out. And I'll multiply this side by the diameter, right? So legal as long as I do it to both sides. So our first thing we need to know is that if you want to find the circumference of a circle, all you need to do is take pi and multiply it times the diameter. If you're wondering why we write it this way and not this way, remember this is a number. This is 3.14159, okay? And d is a variable. So this is a number and a variable. Numbers come before variables, right? We wouldn't say circumference was equal to diameter times 4, right? No, we would say 4 times the diameter, right? So we're going to put pi out in the front. Another way we can write this is we can say circumference since, sorry, hold on. Another thing we can say is since two radiuses or two radii make the diameter, another thing we could say is 2 pi times the radius, right? Because 2 times the radius would be the diameter, okay? So these are two different equations we can use to find the circumference, right? Generally speaking, if you're given the radius, use this one. If you're given the diameter, use this one. It's really up to you because, in fact, if you know how long a radius is, then you know how long the diameter is, right? You just multiply times 2. If you know how long the diameter is, you just divide it by 2, and you can have the radius. So whichever one of these you feel comfortable with is fine. It doesn't matter, okay? Area, on the other hand, okay, so let's talk about area of a circle. Area is a little bit more tricky, and that is that, number one, we have to use the radius, okay? So the problem is you have to know a little bit more advanced math for me to show you where this comes from. But the area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. Okay, so there's no diameter. You can't do it the other way. So again, I can't really derive this for you because you got to go know some fancy math, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. I can show you guys a little bit of an animation. For those of you guys who came to class earlier this week, I showed it to you. It was a triangle that kind of unfolds. But for right now, these are going to be our equations, okay? So our equations we have to know: circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, and your area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Okay, so we kind of need to know these things right here, so jot these down if you have to. So let's go over a couple of different types of problems and what you guys are going to kind of see, okay? So it says find the area of each circle, use your calculator's value of pi. Let's cancel that out for a second. I'm going to explain to you. We are going to leave these in terms of pi. Okay, and what that means is that we are not going to evaluate pi. Okay, we are just going to leave pi in there. Okay, it's the same thing as kind of simplest radical form, where this includes all those infinity digits. So I have a radius here of 12 inches, and they want to know the area. Well, your formula for area is going to be pi times the radius squared. Okay, so my area is an equal pi. Well, what's my radius? 12 squared, right? 12 squared is 144. Therefore, my area is 144 pi inches squared. Okay. Now, if you wanted to evaluate that, you absolutely can. You just go in and you say, hey, what's 144 times pi? So I have 144. Pi button is right here. It is blue, so we're going to press second pi, and we'll just press enter, and that's going to be our area. So if we wanted to round it to the nearest tenth, like I said, it would be 452.4. So area is equal to 452.4 inches squared. So this is what we would say in terms of pi, meaning pi is still part of our answer, or in terms of pi, or this is to the nearest tenth. It depends on the situation. If you want the most accurate answer, it's this one. If you want a more practical answer, something you can actually use, then it's going to go ahead and it's going to be this one, all right? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this one down here, okay? So this time we'll find not the area. This time we'll go ahead and we'll find the circumference, okay? So your circumference, we want to know the distance around the outside of the circle. Circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Well, in this case, since they gave you the radius, you want to use this one right here. But if you wanted to, you know if the radius is 9, you know the diameter is 18, so you can put that in here. But let's go ahead and let's stick to this one. So my circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 9. Don't forget, multiplication is commutative, so you can do this in whatever order you want. So your circumference is 18 pi meters. Okay, so that's in terms of pi. If you wanted to evaluate that, 18 pi, and that's you right there, 56.5, we'll call it. 56.5 meters, okay? Big thing is this is not in meters squared, this is just in meters, right? It's a distance. Circumference is a distance around the outside. So area means how much area is inside here. That's going to be in units squared, and this will just be in meters. Again, you get the units squared from squaring the radius. Here there is no squaring, so we're going to stay in the same units. What I would like to also talk to you guys about is how you're going to kind of work backwards. What if they give you the circumference? So they told you, they gave you the circumference and they want to know the radius, okay? Well, again, I know circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, right? Well, I'm going to say 62.8 is equal to 2 times pi times r. Now, I know it doesn't look like it. but I only have one variable here, right? So what do? I divide this side by 2 pi. I divide this side by 2 pi. Okay? So we'll say what's 62.8 divided by 2 pi? So we're going to say 62.8 divided by, parentheses please, 2 pi. Okay, make sure that's inside parentheses. Okay? And we'll say that's 9.99. So we're pretty sure they want the radius to be 10. Okay, 10 miles. Okay? So that's pretty much it, guys. If they give you the area, okay, so they gave you the area and they want to find the diameter. Well, I know area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Well, I know that 201.1 is equal to pi times the radius squared. Right? So what are we going to do? Let's start dividing both sides by pi. Right, so I have r squared is equal to 201.1 divided by pi. Okay, it's going to be that. So 64.01. And again, think back to algebra. How do I get rid of squares? Take the square root. So I want the square root of 64.01, which I think we can safely go ahead and say is 8 inches. Okay, so that's about all you need to know to do your work. Take a look at it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you.